Senior xenobiologist Krathful pressed himself against the cold metal wall of the observation chamber. His four eyes blinked rapidly as he tried to process what his research team had just witnessed through the security feeds. For 30 cycles, he had studied alien species across the galaxy. He had documented the hunting patterns of the Orcs predators. He had analyzed the pack tactics of the Grenic swarm. Nothing in his long career had prepared him for this moment. The human warship had appeared from nowhere. One moment, the Dominion flagship Eternal Victory was cruising through the contested sector. The next moment, alarms screamed through every corridor. The humans had somehow masked their approach until they were already launching boarding craft. Krathful's assistant, a young female named Sira, stood frozen at her console. Her scales had turned pale white with fear. On the screen before them, they watched the first breach point. The humans had cut through the reinforced hull plating in less than 2 minutes. Their tools burned through metal that was designed to withstand asteroid impacts. The first Marine stepped through the glowing hole. Krathful immediately began recording his observations. His training demanded documentation, even as his instincts screamed at him to run. The human was massive. It stood nearly 2 heads taller than the average Dominion soldier. Its body was wrapped in thick armor plates that covered every vital area. The helmet concealed its face entirely, leaving only a dark visor that reflected the emergency lights. What struck Krathful first was the way it moved. The human did not rush forward blindly. It did not hesitate with uncertainty. It swept the corridor with its weapon in smooth, practiced motions. Every step was deliberate. Every movement served a purpose. This creature had done this before, many times. More Marines poured through the breach behind the first. They moved in perfect coordination without speaking a word. Hand signals passed between them faster than Krathful could follow. The Dominion security team that had rushed to defend the breach point opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts filled the corridor with bright green light. The humans did not retreat. They did not take cover. They advanced directly into the incoming fire. Krathful watched in horror as plasma bolts struck the lead Marine's chestplate. The armor glowed briefly from the heat transfer. The human did not even slow down. It raised its weapon and returned fire with terrifying accuracy. The Dominion soldiers began falling. One after another, they dropped to the deck. The humans did not spray fire randomly. Each shot found its target. Each target went down and did not rise again. The entire security team was eliminated in less than 30 seconds. Sira made a sound of pure terror beside him. Krathful could not blame her. He felt the same fear crawling through his own body, but he forced himself to keep recording. The scientific value of this documentation could not be overstated. No Dominion researcher had ever observed humans in direct combat conditions. The data would be invaluable if any of them survived to share it. The Marines split into smaller groups at the first junction. They moved deeper into the ship with clear purpose. Krathful accessed different camera feeds to track their progress. What he observed defied everything he thought he knew about combat psychology. The humans showed no fear, none at all. Even when Dominion defenders managed to wound one of them, the injured Marine kept fighting. One human took a plasma bolt directly to the arm. The armor there was destroyed. Krathful could see damaged tissue beneath. The human switched its weapon to its other hand and continued advancing without pause. He made a note in his documentation. Pain response appears severely diminished or completely suppressed. Combat effectiveness maintained despite significant injury. This matches theoretical profiles, but observed reality exceeds all predictions. Another camera showed a group of Marines encountering a barricaded position. Dominion soldiers had overturned heavy cargo containers to create a defensive wall. They fired continuously at the approaching humans. The Marines did not attempt to flank or find another route. One of them simply pulled a small device from its belt and threw it over the barricade. The explosion shook the camera feed. When the image stabilized, the barricade was destroyed. The Marines walked through the smoke without waiting for it to clear. They finished off the surviving defenders with quick, precise shots. Krathvoll noted the complete absence of hesitation. There was no consideration shown, no mercy offered. The humans treated the Dominion soldiers as obstacles to be removed, nothing more. Sira finally found her voice. She asked what they should do. Krathvoll had no answer for her. The observation chamber was located deep within the research section of the ship. There was no escape route they could reach. Their only option was to remain hidden and hope the humans passed them by. On the screens, the Marines continued their systematic conquest of the ship. Krathvoll observed them breaching the engineering section. The chief engineer attempted to negotiate. He stepped forward with his hands raised in a universal gesture of surrender. The humans paused briefly. One of them spoke through an external speaker. The words were in the common trade language. The Marine demanded immediate shutdown of all weapon systems. The chief engineer agreed without hesitation. He ordered his staff to comply. The humans waited while the engineers worked. When the weapons went offline, the Marines moved on without harming anyone in that section. Krathvoll made another note. Surrender is accepted when compliance is immediate and complete. Violence appears to be a tool for them, not a goal. They use it when necessary and stop when it is not. This is not rage or bloodlust. This is calculated efficiency. The observation brought him no comfort. If anything, it made the humans more terrifying. A creature driven by rage could be understood. It could be predicted. These humans were something far worse. They were thinking predators. They made cold decisions about who lived and who died based on tactical value. A loud noise echoed through the corridor outside the observation chamber. Krathvoll and Sira both stopped breathing. Heavy footsteps approached their position. The door to the chamber was not designed to resist forced entry. It was a research facility, not a defensive position. The footsteps stopped directly outside. Krathvoll stared at the door. His heart pounded so hard, he thought they might burst from his chest. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then the footsteps moved on. The humans continued down the corridor without attempting to enter. Krathvoll merely collapsed with relief. He did not understand why they had been spared. Perhaps the humans did not consider a research section a threat. Perhaps they were focused on more important objectives. Whatever the reason, they remained alive for now. He returned his attention to the security feeds. The Marines had reached the command center. The ship's captain had chosen to make a final stand there. 20 of the best-trained soldiers on the vessel formed a defensive line at the entrance. They were armed with the most powerful weapons available. The humans did not care. They attacked with the same relentless efficiency they had shown throughout the boarding action. Krathvoll watched the battle unfold with morbid fascination. The Dominion soldiers fought bravely. They inflicted casualties on the attacking force. 3 Marines went down during the assault, struck by concentrated fire. It did not matter. The remaining humans pushed forward over the bodies of their fallen. They breached the defensive line and poured into the command center. The fighting inside was brief and brutal. When it ended, the captain lay dead at his command chair. He had chosen death over capture. The humans seemed unsurprised by this outcome. One Marine removed its helmet. Krathvoll leaned closer to the screen to observe. He had seen images of humans before, but never a live one. The face was strange. Smooth skin covered a skull structure unlike any other species. 2 forward-facing eyes scanned the room with predatory focus. The creature was covered in some kind of moisture. Its chest rose and fell rapidly from exertion. Despite the fatigue signs, the human began issuing orders immediately. Others responded quickly. They secured the command systems. They established control over ship navigation. The entire flagship had been captured in less than 1 standard hour. Krathvoll continued recording his observations. The humans moved through their tasks with practiced coordination. They treated their wounded efficiently. The dead were carried with respect and dignity. Even in victory, there was no celebration or excess. They simply moved on to the next task. He made his final notes as Dominion survivors were gathered in holding areas. The humans searched everyone, but did not harm those who cooperated. Krathvel observed something interesting in these interactions. The Marines spoke to their captives in calm tones. Some even offered water containers to those who appeared distressed. This contradiction fascinated him more than anything else. These same creatures had killed without hesitation minutes ago. Now they showed something almost resembling care for their prisoners. The shift was so sudden it seemed impossible. Yet the evidence was undeniable. Sira asked if they should surrender. Krathvel considered the question carefully. Based on his observations, cooperation appeared to guarantee survival. Resistance guaranteed death. The calculation was simple, even if the decision was difficult. He powered down his recording device and stored the data crystals safely in his robes. Whatever happened next, this documentation must survive. The galaxy needed to understand what humans truly were. Not the merchants and diplomats that most species encountered. The warriors beneath that civilized mask. The door to the observation chamber suddenly opened. 3 Marines stood in the entrance with weapons raised. Krathvel immediately raised his forearms in surrender. Sira did the same. The lead Marine lowered its weapons slightly and spoke in the trade language. The voice was surprisingly calm, almost gentle. The Marine asked if there were any wounded in the chamber. Krathvel managed to respond that they were both unharmed. The Marine nodded and gestured for them to exit. They would be taken to the holding area with the other survivors. As Krathvel walked past the Marine, he noticed something strange. Through the dark visor, he could barely see the human's eyes. They were not filled with hatred or aggression. They looked tired, perhaps even sad. This creature had just killed dozens of Dominion soldiers. Yet its eyes held something that looked almost like regret. Krathvel added one final mental note to his documentation. They do not enjoy this. They are built for violence but not consumed by it. This makes them the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. They can turn their killing nature on and off like a simple switch. No other predator has ever evolved such control. He walked toward the holding area with this terrible knowledge burning in his mind. The humans had won this battle easily. They would win many more. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest, because they were the most adaptable, the most controlled, the most efficient at the application of violence. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long. Krathvel hoped his documentation would change that. Other species needed to understand what they faced. The humans were not enemies to fight. They were forces of nature to be survived. His research would ensure that lesson reached every corner of Dominion space. If the Dominion was wise, they would seek peace immediately. The alternative was too horrible to consider. Krathvel had seen the future of galactic warfare in those dark marine visors. It was a future where humanity stood at the top of every food chain, where their calm efficiency made them unstoppable. He clutched his data crystal tighter and prayed that someone would listen.